all that I can focus on in those moments are if they're missing their mark or if they're
Yeah.
So in those, like you're blacked out. It's not like, oh, these are like my second moms.
Right.
It's like, hit your mark, Susan.
Yes.
But,
Hey friends, it's Dana. This is Words That Move Me. This is Wrist Roll the dog at feeding time. She is very hungry, so we're going to get through this intro very fast. My friends, I'm thrilled that you're here. I'm so excited for this episode. It's been a long time coming. I've been trying to have our guest, Taylor James, kind of like James Taylor, but backwards, trying to have him on the podcast for years now. Dear friend, beyond talented dancer, and now blossoming as a writer-director. Taylor has a lot of insight about some of the challenges, the nastier, dirtier bits, pulling back the curtain on what it means to be a dancer, as well as a lot of really awesome wins to celebrate and some great techniques for you and how you are thinking about your vices, your urges, yourself, and the relationship between you and your value in the world. This is a big one. But first, let's do some wins. Today, I am celebrating a successful redecoration of the space. I have added, as you can tell, Mylar streamers to an entire wall of my place. And that came along with a lot of heavy lifting, light on the arms, but heavy on the mind because excuse me, I'm talking. Adhesives on the west side of the building, that wall gets pretty warm, turns out, in the middle of summer in Los Angeles. I understand. You are hungry, and I am trying to do my ins and outs. We used to call them ins and outs. We don't do outs anymore. I understand. Just one second, please. Kelly Machete, thank you so much for your help with round one. Natalia Z, thank you so much for the brainstorming that led to this point. And Party City down the street over on Ventura, thank you for offering such cheap and such visually pleasing decor. Tiny, we're almost there. That's my win. That is what I'm celebrating. Up, up, up. Now you go. What's going well in your world? Good girl, stay. Congratulations, my friend. I'm so glad you're winning. I hope you continue to win, and I hope that my curtains continue to stay up on the wall. All right, let's jump into this conversation, shall we? Taylor James has more dance credits than I do, and watching him win into this next phase of his career is an absolute treat and a treasure. So is this conversation. I hope you enjoy the one and only Taylor James. That was bad. Oh, welcome to the podcast, Taylor James. Let's cut that.
I was like, oh, it started. Okay, great.
Very unofficial start. Well, here's the funny part. Before this happens, as you know, because you've watched at least one episode of this show, I do an intro for you without you sitting here. So after you leave, I'm going to do an intro for you.
You go, oh, wow.
And then
he's so honest.
Yes, that's what I'm going to say. Wait, have you read your thank you card?
No, I didn't. Sorry.
You don't have to read it right now, but I do say in that
you
card.
You read it on camera live.
I was like, one of the things I really love about you is your honesty. You are one of the friends in my life that I know will not bullshit me and has no reason to. But for some reason, a lot of us bullshit a lot of the time. And you are not a bullshitter. And so I'm so excited to have you on the podcast for your honesty, for your talent, for your point of view, and all your many experiences. Riz is thrilled also. You just can't tell because she's having a very nappy day. But welcome to the podcast. Hey, hi.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so stoked to be here.
I'm so excited. Okay, so I will ask you to introduce yourself. People find this to be challenging. Yeah. I'm wondering how you'll respond because you're a multi-type. Mm-hmm. But yeah, tell us anything you want us to know about you.
Well, my name is Taylor James. I'm a retired backup dancer turned director and screenwriter. And from Canada. And I moved here 14 years ago and had a successful dance career and transitioned about 5 years ago into filmmaking.
And even while you were dancing, you were a multi-type person, right? Were you always
Yeah.
into fashion? Because this person has styled me from like a few pieces in my closet mixed with a few pieces in your closet mixed
love
with
to
a
do that.
very quick run to the Goodwill
Yep.
in looks that are some of my favorite looks that I've ever been photographed in, that I've ever worn, that I've ever danced in. Part of me actually wanted, if I wasn't feeling my outfit so much, wanted for us to like do a quick cut and go style me really
And then I
fast.
come back, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. It's like a makeover from like
Kinda.
a 90s movie. Yeah, my absolute favorite. I've always been like really into fashion, and I've always been like really drawn to that world, fashion models,
Yeah.
photography. I was a photographer the whole time that I was a dancer. I still am a photographer.
Yeah.
But I've been doing them professionally for about the same amount of time.
Yeah.
So I do think like there was, I had a bit of a different lens maybe than like a lot of the other dancers in our group when I was first in Los Angeles, just
Yeah.
being that I had a background in something very different.
Other than dance.
Yeah, and just like, like a real sort of like understanding and appreciation of like aesthetics and branding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
branding is a big one. Yeah.
Your eye is so keen. I was very thrilled on myself that you liked the layout of the space, because I think you have a really critical eye, and I like the way you put things together, not just in space, but like you said, a brand, something that's
This wouldn't work
memorable.
in my house,
Correct.
but I saw it and I was like, oh, that's very Dana. It's like perfect.
Yes, I think a shitty plastic, like a really cheap thing that sparkles is
Mylar wall, yeah.
very me.
Yeah.
It's true. I've always loved a
Well, it
cheap
brings
thing
so
that
much-
sparkles.
It brings so much movement and personality to the space.
Movement is what
sound
I
like I'm fully
required.
on AD, but it's like it adds like a lot of movement, personality. It reflects colors and light. So like
Yeah.
with this setup that you're sort of doing here, can
Yes.
they see it?
a little bit.
Behind the scenes,
a little
they
bit.
can take a peek.
The other thing, the movement is critical,
Hmm.
but also the quick and the changeability of it. It's tough for me to commit. Like even the bookshelf, which always gets talked about,
The Sega,
it was like
yeah.
a commitment, man. And I don't love to commit to things. I have wanted to wallpaper this wall forever
Hmm.
and thought of 8 different things that I would have loved there. Riz, just pretend to be interested. But yeah, this is it. And it's changeable. It was more or less fast. I will tell you, if you are interested in Mylar streamering an entire wall of your home, you need to make sure that you are not doing a wall that faces east or west, because the heat that this wall receives in the second half of the day, these puppies come down often. I'm having to restick the
Staple
3.
them.
I should staple them.
It's a rental, whatever. Put a little
Okay.
toothpaste in it when you move out or whatever.
It's not a rental. I own this bad
Oh,
boy.
sorry, I forgot. Yeah.
but
Some people
that's-
had more successful dance careers than others.
No, let's talk about your successful dance career. Oh, really? Our shoes are cute.
Oh, they are. They're cute.
Because, I mean, I spent 20 years of my life, I mean, on and off, but 20 years working for Justin Timberlake. In those same 20 years, you worked for 14, 15, like all of them, artists. Katy Perry, Beyoncé, Justin Timberlake also. Who am I leaving out?
J-Lo.
J-Lo. Oh, God. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Taylor rubs off on me. Your honesty is contagious. So I want to know if anything stands out about that time to you, positive or negative. We'll start there. And then, because that was some years ago now, when was the last time you dance gigged?
I retired from dance probably like 5-6 years ago. I've done probably like 2 jobs with dancing since then.
Okay.
One being a music video that Megan Lawson asked me to do.
Was it the Adele one?
No, I assisted her on that one. No, it was for Ed Sheeran, and Megan famously asked me if I wanted to do an Ed Sheeran music video, and I was like, okay, we need to talk.
That's wonderful. Okay. Yes, she talked about that when she was on the podcast. She talked about that video. Okay. So yes, that tracks. What do you remember about that time?
It was, I honestly, like, I don't really think about my dance life. It feels like my lore at this point. I think probably because I'm like so focused on trying to grow and evolve in a different industry and like basically start from the bottom again.
Yes.
But there was nothing that I wanted more before I moved to Los Angeles than to be a professional dancer. And I worked so hard in Canada to sort of build up a resume and make those connections and train so that when I got here, I could be successful.
Yeah, you were well set up. Like you set yourself up for success.
And we also too, like I'm from Canada, so I was like, obviously you're on O1, many O1s. And we were really lucky because a big group of us who had done So You Think You Can Dance, the Canadian version, RIP, we all moved at the same time. So there was like a dozen of us who had sort of been friends and dancing together for at least 2 years. And we moved out as like a group and everybody called us Team Canada.
Yep.
And we just, kind of like took over the industry in a way. Like everybody moved and was really successful. And there was, there was some animosity in, the dance community about some of that stuff. But those, I mean, what are the haters doing?
Come on.
And I just, it was just like moving here with like your closest group of friends and proving, I guess like proving to ourselves that we could do it. It's like we all had like these really big dreams and wanted it so bad. And I think the thing that like people don't think about with dancers on O1s or anybody sort of on an O1 is like there's no other option. Like we couldn't, if we were struggling, we couldn't go get a job at Starbucks or fold t-shirts at Abercrombie at night like friends of ours would. Like dance was the only job that we could do.
Right.
So the pressure at those auditions, it's like, oh, okay, you think we're extra? It's like, we don't have a choice. If I don't book this job and I don't book the next job, I might have to move back to my country and I'll never get to stay here. So
I don't think I ever overlapped at an audition with you, but I want to see full out Taylor James at an audition.
It was crazy.
I believe that.
It was like things that like I actually physically cannot do.
That came out of your body.
All the time people were like, I didn't know you're flexible. I was like, I'm not at all. Like
just pulling
I'm just actually chronically injured. Is basically what it was. No, I would get possessed. But I think, I think like my skill sets in dance, because I worked a lot and I had an amazing career and I'm so thankful and like grateful for all of those experiences. It wasn't because I was the best dancer in Los Angeles. I was good.
You're very good.
No, I could hold my own with most people. Obviously, there was like all of these aliens that I was like, how are you moving like that?
Yeah.
But I could hold my own. But I understood like the marketing branding aspect of being a performer.
Yes.
And I feel like I really honed in on that early.
Yeah.
And, I saw the career I wanted and I would, oh my God. Okay, loving the story.
Are you cool with that?
I'm obsessed.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's really fun. And I also, I was good at auditioning, and I was good at auditioning, and I was good at marketing and branding myself.
Yeah.
I knew what I knew what spot I wanted to sort of like take up in the industry, and.
What do you think made you good at auditioning? Can you remember? Was it honestly, like mindset, outfit, approach? Like you mentioned being like too much, which sometimes is a tactic, right? You got to get yourself noticed. I remember auditioning with Danielle Polanco, who is like the definition of too much. She's perfectly all the right levels of things, but
she's perfectly too much. Like unlike Danielle Polanco, I don't have like, I'm not trained in every style. I haven't perfected every style. Like she's a true master of dance. And I've always had so much love and respect for her.
Cosign.
But she has audacity. And I think the audacity is like the part that separates you. It's like, I struggled, I think a lot of my decisions still in my life are very fear-based. Fear of failure, fear of letting people down, being a perfectionist.
Oh, yes.
But I think, I was able to sort of disassociate in those moments and be like, I don't care if somebody's judging me. I don't care if somebody thinks I'm doing too much or I'm pulling too much focus or if I'm whatever.
Yeah.
I think if I reflect on like my dance life, my dance career, I really had like an ability to step into like this false sense of confidence as a performer and as an auditioner.
I'm here for confidence in whether it's false or not.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that is the key to auditioning. I don't know if it is or not, but I do know that fear is like the kiss of death at an audition. And if you're, unless I've never needed to cast someone who looks afraid ever, because I don't work in that genre much. But to look afraid is a kiss of death at an audition. Okay, moving on. Dance today, because you still are very in touch with like I think you have a really unique position as like a person who knows intimately this industry, the quirks of it, the ins of it, the outs of it, the pain of it, and also, no, mostly pain. If you had to report on dance today from your 30,000 foot view, what would you say is going on
in the industry?
Yeah.
I mean, we saw this shift happen, and we've had conversations about this, particularly the conversations that I've had the most, I think, about that shift while it was happening was like with
Bodies.
The Weeds. Yeah, it was with you and Jillian, Megan.
Yep.
Because I think from your guys' side of things, and you talked about this in your episode with Megan, I was listening on the way over, good student. But that sort of like, I'm not doing it for that. It should be like this lived experience, like in the thing, like the purity of that experience. And I think something that, allows people from past generations of any industry to be able to evolve with it is to understand and notice the trends and embrace them rather than sort of reject them. And I think, there's this huge sort of point that like we've talked about many times, and I've had this conversation with you guys many times, but it's like the judgment and the fear around being judged or being looked at in a way that isn't favorable, like isn't the way that you want to sort of be viewed.
Being misunderstood.
Yes, trying to be in control of like how that experience is, how you're perceived in the industry, I think it paralyzes you from being able to like move forward in the industry. And it's like what I'm seeing right now in the dance world, and from the other side of things, like I direct, I do music videos and commercials, and I have to cast people, and I'm on the other side of the table. I'm with clients. There's other people above me that are making final decisions on a lot of things. And if you're a dancer and you're not posting dance content constantly, if you're not trying to build a following, which is leverage in the industry, then you're sort of like, you're failing yourself. Because I think you were even a little bit before me, but we were very much in like the same generation. You just started earlier and were better. But like we got the tail end of the dance experience that I think most dancers want. Yeah. And it's not, I don't think that.
And by that you mean like the part where a social media following was not a critical factor.
Putting any of yourself out there wasn't a factor. It was just show up to the audition,
have
book
a great
the job,
headshot.
Tour with the artist, be in the movies, be in the TV shows, and then get to live your life separately. It's not, it can be a full-time job when you're working, but now it's sort of like a full-time job when you're not working. And that's sort of how
well said. Yes. Yeah. You have to be a dancer all the time, living that dance life.
Yeah, because it's a business. And I think, people, before there was a lot more business happening outside of you and you'd step into the business. Whereas now it's like, dancers have always been their own business, but you really have to view yourself as a single establishment business. What am I doing to market my business? What am I doing to get my business in front of other people? How do I get people to buy from my business?
What does my storefront look like?
Yeah. What does my storefront look like? Yeah.
Whoa. Very astute, keen observation. And yeah, I try to not be paralyzed by thoughts of that. For a while, I was really good at daily posts. It was a focus for me. It was a challenge. It was my only focus actually some days. And since then, that habit of shipping, no matter what, has been broken and is interfered by a lot of negative self-talk and thoughts about, it won't be received well. People won't like, I'm not gonna. And that's so lame. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I do think you can have both though. A high standard for your work and a frequent ship button. You just have to, what is the secret to that?
What is a ship button? Sorry, just so I'm...
Ship button.
Ship.
Like hit send, like hit post.
Oh, yes.
Like
yes.
frequently shipping. I love this question.
When I hear shipping, I'm sorry, I've got brain rot. So when I hear ship, I think of like...
A boat?
A fandom who's obsessed with two characters and they put them in pretend relationships. They call it shipping. Excuse me for being Gen Z. Down with the culture of the youth.
Was not familiar. I just got Ed Sheeran.
You got Ed Sheeran hard, yeah.
Okay, so hit ship meaning like hit deliver, hit send. And I miss that habit, and I miss the conversation that came along with it, which was, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But what's on the other side of that is thinking it does matter. What people think of me does matter, which is also true.
Yeah.
So the bottom line for me is whichever one you're holding is the one that will dominate. It's the one that will decide how you behave.
Whatever muscle you work out the most is the strongest.
Yes.
The other one will atrophy. So
Yes.
you have to be intentional if you're shifting a behavior to actively strengthen the other muscle while realizing that this other one is still stronger.
Yes.
Until you sort of shift the balance.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of shift, I am so impressed at your ability to career shift. I know a lot of people, dancers and non-dancers, who are afraid. You talk about making fear-based decisions, afraid of losing relevance, afraid of losing their footing, afraid of not having money. So keep doing the thing that was working just because they're afraid of the unknown.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about your decision to retire?
Yeah.
You kind of were always doing photography, but the decision to become a writer and a director, did you start saying no to dance jobs because that was your focus, or?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I could have, I could still be dancing had I not stopped. You know, there was still, people would hit me up to do jobs all the time. If I'm being 100% honest, I was sort of like falling out of love with dance. I just found myself kind of disgruntled on a lot of jobs. I'd been doing it for a long time. The pay never increased. The respect level didn't increase much. And, you're working so hard at that level. And there's so much pressure on the dancers. Like, people I don't think understand. It's even when I see bad dancing and I'm just like, oh my God, dance is embarrassing. I'm still thinking they have so much pressure on them right now.
Yes.
And like, people don't understand like what that sort of, how toxic that kind of environment can be.
Yeah.
And especially, I don't know how things have sort of shifted in the industry, but there's a lot of toxic behaviors that were really accepted in our era and before.
Yeah.
With choreographers and stuff, getting away with like kind of abusive methods of training.
I think that's another shift, actually, to jump back to what you were saying before about the environment, the 24/7-ness of our job now, and the importance of being visible in what we do all the time. But also, there is a shift in the diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility side of things. Thank God. People aren't allowed to say things anymore that they would say all the time. I have been pinched and asked, what are you eating? Like, that is a real thing that happened on a real job with a real person that I actually love. And there are some changes in that area, which I am very grateful for.
We're all reflecting sort of like where we're at.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean? And I think, I'm saying this about like people sort of speaking out of turn or whatever. And it's like, I'm sure that like I've had my fair share of moments in rehearsals where it's never ever been my intention to put anybody down or hurt anybody's feelings. But because I'm always joking and shit talking and just trying to make people laugh, there has been many times where people have been like, ouch. And every single time I'm like, oh my God.
I'm so
because
sorry.
it's just so not my intention. But, I'm sure that there's been moments where I've said things that have made people uncomfortable or hurt somebody's feelings. And, it does happen. And yeah, as you're saying, it's like we do get that opportunity to grow and evolve once we see like, oh, that's not how we need to do things. Like I just finished, sorry, just a sideline.
Love this.
I just finished watching Dream Academy on Netflix where they're making the K-pop group, like the international K-pop group. Obsessed. This is my endorsement. If you haven't watched it, go watch it.
I can't wait.
The dancers on it are beyond. Like the growth that you see in this intensive training program, and Sohei and Nikki and Jay and some other people like are training them and are a part of this process. And it's so incredible. But then you also, I've done reality television. I've been a professional dancer. And so seeing the production side of things that are sort of like fucking with these girls to like get them, bring out the drama and like toy with people's emotions. Like they did that so much on So You Think in Canada.
Yes.
And you can't help but like really feel for them too, because all that you want when you're in that position is for somebody to choose you and say like, you're good enough. And like, and yes, these things that like, you're so afraid to believe about yourself that you can do it and that you are good enough. I'm going to affirm that for you. And that's all they want. So you're sort of, you'll put up with so many other things.
Yeah.
But there is one girl actually who was just like, I'm not into this. She's like, they're pitting us against each other and this is making me sick. And like, she's like a shell of herself by the time she leaves, but I was so proud of her for saying something. Yeah.
I can't wait to watch.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
But I was always that girl on jobs too. Like,
yeah, I
would speak up a lot. I would quit jobs.
Yes.
Like I was not notorious, but within my friend group, like.
Well, you were also one of the leaders of Dancers Alliance for a very long time.
Yeah.
You had stake in that game. You were a leader and advocate for dancers' rights. So for you to, for lack of a better phrase, just bend over and take it on set it was not an option for you.
Absolutely not.
Nice. I love that about you.
Yeah, but I think, my advocacy work for the dance community and like sitting on boards at the union and doing so much work with Dancers Alliance, it did shift my perception of the industry, and it did lead to me falling out of love with dance, but more so because I was becoming more educated to what is appropriate, what isn't.
Yeah.
What is okay, what is not okay to accept.
Yeah.
How should you be treated as a professional dancer versus what's not acceptable.
Yeah.
And I think once those lines became really clear for me,
then it became easy to say no.
And a lot harder to put up with bullshit.
Ooh.
And so I get to answer your question from 20 minutes ago because I totally sidebarred us. What led to me sort of leaving dance was a bit of that. And then I moved to New York to do The Greatest Showman.
Yep.
And it was supposed to be a 3-month contract.
Mm-hmm.
And
double that. It's like a kitchen or bathroom renovation. It's going to take twice as long.
But most movie jobs aren't like that. Usually what you're being told is the timeline. I
don't know. Not in my experience.
No,
always
really?
over. Always over.
Oh, well, this was like...
I don't know. Except for like drop-ins, like La La Land. That was like, you're getting 3 days of rehearsal and 2 shoot days. That is what it is. But like...
Oh, I also love that.
Yeah, love that.
But it was like the difference between 3-month expectation
and what was it actually?
Months. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
and your whole life is on hold.
Subletting our places.
Yep.
And the thing that sort of happened about it that was, I don't know if we can talk about it, but whatever. It's fine. I doubt anyone's suing me. The thing that was like kind of shady about the whole thing was they had ran auditions in New York and didn't find what they were looking for.
Right.
And so they direct booked a handful of us from Los Angeles to come to the film.
And asked you to work as locals?
Asked us to work as locals. And I was sitting on boards at the union at the time. Mm-hmm. So I triple checked with everybody. Am I going to be able to file a claim? Am I protected if I do this? Can I go work? And they were like, absolutely.
Yep.
Go work as a local, track everything.
Yep.
Submit a claim a week before you guys wrap shooting, and it'll get taken care of. It got taken care of 6.5 years later. But so it definitely was a journey. But I think, none of us expected the job to go on that long.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's disrespect and that's hard.
Mismanagement of the things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. But in that time, you're also checking this major box, which is huge feature film. Mm-hmm. You're having fun because of talented cast. It's great people.
The cast was
insane.
The only thing that kept me alive, honestly.
Yeah,
I went through such a dark depression and developed like a debilitating anxiety disorder during that process that stuck with me for years and that I still sort of deal with.
Yeah.
And though that cast of dancers was just so chef's kiss, such like a dream to be able to work with so many performers that you love and respect and who are veterans and have so much experience and are just such professionals.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it can be sort of disheartening for anybody where it's like you're being sold the idea of one thing and then when you show up it's not that, and that can just be like really challenging. That being said, I was going through a really dark time during that process and I wasn't the most positive person. But I will say the thing that I give myself credit for through that whole thing was I always was fighting for the dancers as a group.
Yep.
I took charge of our claims. I took charge of documentation, communication with the union, and I did it consistently over 6 years after to make sure that there was some sort of restitution for the bad behavior of like what had happened on the studio part.
People trying to take advantage of y'all.
Yeah.
You are a guardian angel. Thank you for that. And paid the price, like some mental health struggles. I know you're a big fan of a 12-step program.
I am.
How did that show up for you first in your life and since then?
Yeah. So I got sober from drugs and alcohol when I was 19. And I just never would have had a dance career or a life probably had I not gotten sober at that time. My impetus for getting sober at 19, though, wasn't because I had thought of myself or viewed myself as having a drinking problem. I started getting into harder drugs when I was around 18. And it just, after like a year and a half, I just felt like so much of my life felt unrecognizable, and I wasn't sort of like recognizing parts of myself. And it just freaked me out to the point where I was like, I need to stop everything. So I stopped drinking alcohol as a means to sort of quit doing other things.
Let's just bundle this whole thing together.
I'm like, none of it's serving me. Like, it doesn't matter. So I was sober from like 19 to 29 when I did Greatest Showman. And that's when I relapsed. But I never thought of it even as a relapse at the time, because I never thought of myself as somebody who was an alcoholic or had a drinking problem. So I started drinking during that project, never obviously on set, but like a lot offset. And from 29 for 2 years straight, I probably drank every single day and drank excessively. And it's addiction, and it's such a tricky thing because people define things so specifically. And for me, I never exhibited any behaviors that flagged me having a drinking problem to anybody. So when I decided to get sober from alcohol when I was 31 probably, so many people were like, why? You don't have a drinking problem.
Wow.
And it's funny, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's a harder thing to sort of, because it doesn't always look the same. It's not always like how it is in a movie or a TV show where it's like, the dad's drunk on the couch and he's covered in bottles. Like, it's not always that.
Yeah.
But if you have a compulsion to drink or to continue drinking, I think that is enough of a reason to sort of look at the behavior.
I love that philosophy. Yeah, you're speaking to my core. I have investigated my relationship with food and with alcohol several times in my life to varying degrees. I think the alcohol side I've looked at a little bit less carefully. I toss it up to like, my family loves to drink. It's like how we bond. But like, there have definitely been chapters of my life where I am drinking, not with my family, alone by myself on the couch watching Netflix and calling it like normal. And I think in our society,
it is in a lot of ways.
It is.
So it's easy to also too. I mean, this is the thing too. It's like not everybody who drinks a lot has a drinking problem. I think that like having a drinking problem or a dependency on alcohol or a compulsion with alcohol is a very specific thing. And I think it's only somebody can make that decision for themselves if that's what's happening. And that just takes like a lot of introspection and a lot of honesty with yourself. But to the point about 12 steps, I never went to a 12-step program for alcohol. So when I got sober again, I'd been sober for 5 years. I didn't get into 12 steps until 7 or 8 months ago when I sought it out for disordered eating.
Whoa. I didn't know that.
Yeah, for compulsive eating.
So you are going to OA.
I go to OA, Overeaters Anonymous.
Jillian Schmidt's podcast guest also had incredible things to say about that program. I'm really curious about it because I know I've had disordered eating at several different points in my life. I think most dancers with the relationship to our body and the mirror, how do you not? Yeah, I'm actually very interested to talk to anyone who's made it through totally unscathed in that relationship of food and body. But I definitely have used food as reward, as punishment, withholding, overindulging, and to be in command of that intersection, I would love to have that feeling. It's one that I find myself policing all the time. Can you share any tools or any insights that you've gained since then that might help me or anybody listening?
Honestly, I would say like it is truly like the most profound form of healing that I've ever sort of encountered, and it has changed my life for the better in so many ways. I think for me, I never would have thought of myself or defined myself as somebody with disordered eating or an eating disorder. I obviously have gone through periods in my life of restrictive eating. I've purged a handful of times in my life. Like that's never been my thing. But I think, having an excessive amount of control of what I'm putting in my body and how much I'm exercising was the main part of my professional dance career. And that's like at the time, like I was using steroids. I was working out 6 days a week. I had a personal trainer. I was very restrictive with the food that I was eating. And I knew some of it was unhealthy, but I don't think that I would have classified it at the time as disordered eating because it was very normal around me. All of those behaviors were very normal around me. But with that, I also always struggled with periods of binging.
Because when you weren't restricted, you would be
or if I would leave town, if I would ever travel for some reason, it was like, okay, I'm out of prison. And I would just eat all the things that I'm not allowed to eat, which was mostly sugar. Like I've just been a sugar addict my whole life. If I like look way, way back, my earliest memories are like eating excessive amounts of sugary food secretly because I'm not allowed to have it. And it's all self-soothing. It's like we're all just sort of like any type of disordered eating.
Trying to feel better.
Yeah. Addiction, disordered eating, any type of self-harm in that way is just a trauma response to trying to self-soothe in some way. And you just don't have the tools to do that. My therapist had actually recommended I check it out. And it was literally, I had gained a lot of weight post dancing and particularly post like pandemic. Because I just, my binge eating like got really out of control and I had gained a lot of weight and there was just so much shame and so much, I was just devastated. And I think I would say 90% of my brain capacity, my thoughts in my brain through the day were around food, what I'm eating, shame around the food I'm eating, shame about my body, how my looks have changed, how I'm being perceived by people who knew me when I was like a hot dancer, so
it's a lot of mental real estate.
It's a lot of mental real estate. So yeah, when I found the program and went in, my first meeting felt a little weird and it didn't feel very like my tribe, but there was something that really pulled me to go back. And I went back the next day and immediately just felt like so at home in the space and I committed to the program really quickly and found a sponsor and started working the steps. And not everybody's story is that way. Like I have very close friends who started program around the same time as I did, who haven't had the same experience that I have. So it is just like a blessing. Yeah, it's a blessing that it sort of worked out this way. But I just like don't think about food in that way. I don't think about my body all the time. I don't care about how much I weigh. Like I've lost a significant amount of weight since being in the program, but I could care less. Like I don't feel like my value and my worth is coming from that. And that's talking about like the strong muscle versus the weak muscle.
Yeah.
For the whole time that I was dancing, and particularly like the transformation that I underwent when I moved to Los Angeles and then sort of started working out, started taking steroids, getting more tattoos, doing all of these things that would position me better in the industry. It was also the same time that Instagram was invented. And we were working on X Factor at the time, season 1. And I was like one of the first people on Instagram. So like people look at my thing now as a director and they're like, oh, he has so many followers. I was like,
you've been doing
nobody cares about what I'm directing. It's because I used to take my clothes off on Instagram in 2013 or whatever. You know what I mean? But, that many years of sort of being hired as like the hot guy or whatever, your value and your worth comes from, it just becomes completely intertwined.
Tied together.
100%. We threw up a photo of me being hot when I was younger because I've referenced it a few times and I don't want people to watch this and be like, when? Bitch, when?
Shut up.
Yeah, I'll send you an headshot.
Gladly, please. I would love that.
And I had also, prior to that, never experienced that. Like I always wanted so badly to have people be attracted to me or like to want to date me or like, and I just never had that experience until my mid-20s when I changed my body and my persona, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hard to sort of separate like your value or your worth when you change things about yourself and then you get so much adoration and attention and money.
You get reinforced.
I wasn't a sex worker. I'm saying like for dance stuff.
Yeah. But where do you think your value comes from now? I mean, you have changed the way you're thinking around food. You've changed the way you're thinking around your body. And you've changed your actual career title from being dancer, which is a visual and very physical form to director writer,
Yeah.
which is a little bit behind the scenes. Are those related at all? And actually that I'm less interested in, but where do you think your value comes from now? And then maybe more broadly, where does like a human's value come from?
Yeah. I think I really am so aware of where my value was coming from when I was a performer that I try to clock it now in moments where I am attaching my value to what I'm putting out as a creator.
I see.
So
To the work.
So like, is the music, did I get a good job? Is the music video cool? Are people complimenting my work? Like, I really am clocking that and trying to separate myself from that being my value point versus what I really feel are my value points now are the way I show up in my relationships, the way that I show up for my community.
Also your taste, which is exquisite in the way you share that
having
generously.
Yeah.
Like, no, you've helped me in a huge transition of my life. When my ex moved out, came over to the house and we're like, okay, this, yes, this maybe. Have you thought about just moving? What about this? What about this?
I was like, we could sell it.
And for some reason, your ability to do that, both severe and compassionate, I think that's a huge value. It's not just like the what you are doing, which is the work, but the way that you do it, I think is where I tie a lot of your value to you.
A lot of the times too, it's like, I mean, intention versus impact.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I know I've always, no matter what I've ever done, my intentions have been pure or good.
Yeah.
The impact that, sometimes hits, sometimes misses. Less in the last, I'd say probably 6 years. But I think, a huge part of that too is, and a huge blessing that came from struggling with my mental health, going through a really bad depression for many years, medication, therapy, anxiety, all of those sorts of things. It's like, that was the darkest, hardest time of my life. It was the starting point of the life that I have now because it broke me open and I've become a much softer, more compassionate, empathetic person. So I think I do care a lot about my impact. I put more value into the impact versus the intention. Because before I would, back in the day, there was no filter at all. I'm trying to help, but I would say things that could be like so cutting or raw or whatever. Yeah. And the intention is to help that person, but it wasn't always the impact. And I think, struggling with like those sorts of things and becoming a much more sensitive, softer person, has shifted a little bit more of like that focus onto also the impact while still being honest with people. And because I'm compulsively honest.
And having this sharp pointed perspective, which I think is what makes you a great director. You're not going to be a great
making.
You're not going to be a great director if it's wishy-washy and if it's always so gentle.
What do you think? I don't know.
Everybody should have a voice in this. And like, I love the way that you lead. I got to be there just for a short time while you were directing the Jason Mraz video.
Yeah, because your mom was in it.
My mom was in it. Here's a question. What was it like directing my mom and Sue Lawson, who are 70s and have no experience taking direction?
It's so funny. It's like, it was so sweet and so pure. And I was so happy to get to have them in the video because I love both yours and Meg's moms so much. But when there's that many moving pieces and there's that much on my plate. All I'm thinking of are all that I can focus on in those moments are if they're missing their mark or if they're fucking up. So in those, like, you're blacked out. It's not like, oh, these are like my second moms. Right. It's like, hit your fucking mark, Susan.
Yes.
But they did a great job. And
and they had their track was not easy.
Their track was not easy.
Their track was not
professional
easy.
They may have birthed two of the best professional dancers. Professional dancers, they are not. But they did an amazing job. They didn't mess up any takes. But it is a stressful process.
Taylor, I deliberately did not wear under eye mascara because I knew I would be crying today. They did a really great job. And I think, on that shoot, you had to work so fast. So you're limited to being able to think about, did it work, did it not? what needs to be changed so that it works. And
it was ambitious.
That's all. It was a very ambitious thing. And you guys
a
really pulled
one-take
it
dance
off.
music video from beginning to end with 50 bodies and probably 7 or 8 different rooms. So it was totally ambitious.
It's the definition of Big Appetite.
Yeah.
I love it, and I think it's delightful, and my mom loves it and loves you.
I love her.
Okay, so speaking of you as a director, I want to talk about I Love You Bye.
Oh, sure.
And I took some notes because I don't want to get it wrong. I want to get your praises right, so just wait for this. It is the winner of Best Comedy at Holy Shorts Film Festival and the winner of the Grand Jury Prize for Best Narrative Short at Sonoma International Film Festival. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is there one more?
No, we were nominated for Best Comedy
JK
at
shit.
Holly Shorts.
Okay.
But it's fine. We didn't win. But there was only 3 of us in the category, so it felt like a win anyways.
Yeah.
And I was just like, the other 2 shorts that were in the category were so amazing. And I think for me, it's like, I don't do it for the awards. Why would I think I'm going to get any fucking awards? It's my first time.
It's your first time
It's my
doing
first
this.
time. The fact that I'm getting into like amazing festivals and that it's being so well received is...
That's winning.
It blows my
winning.
mind. It's winning. Yeah. So that like I have no disappointment around any of that kind of stuff.
Nice.
The fact that we won our first festival for Best Live Action.
Yeah.
Also blew my mind because the other films that were there, I just were some of my favorite films that I had seen that year.
Oh my God. So talk to me about making it, because you're obviously charged
Yeah.
up, and I hope that you have plans for something next already.
Yeah, I have other projects like that I'm developing and working on.
Okay. And this one, what was the hustle like? I'm assuming you were the stylist and the writer and the director and the producer and the.
I was a lot of ands, but I hired a lot of very talented, capable people to help sort of support the vision. But I think, when I had started directing, I was doing music videos and commercials and branded content stuff.
Yep.
Mostly in like the skin, fashion, beauty world. And I've always wanted to do narrative, and that's the ultimate goal. But it's that catch-22 where it's like, if you don't have something to show you've done it, then nobody's ever going to take a chance on you, which is why people do short films, so that you can prove that you can write or you can direct or you can be a cinematographer, whatever it is. And so that was really like the impetus for making the short was just, hopefully this turns out good and hopefully I can find reps from it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Nice.
And it just, the writing process was really long. I think, again, a lot of my decisions can be fear-based. And I think there was just so much fear about stepping into the unknown.
Yeah. And this debut work needing to be all the things.
It having to be good. And it's that perfectionist too. It's like, I never want to put out anything that's not amazing. But again, it's like, you do sort of have to like grow to your taste level, And I will say, I'm totally happy with how the film turned out. I think it looks very expensive. It looks amazing. Everybody loves it who's seen it. So I'm so proud of it and happy that I was able to create what I wanted to create with it.
Yeah.
But the initial expectations for it on my side were quite low. Like I wasn't thinking about festivals.
Let's do this as an exercise, or
no, not do it as an exercise, but I wasn't planning on doing like a bunch of film festivals.
Circuit.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on being on like a full festival circuit for 6 months. But then once I finished the script and I was like, oh, I think it's like actually good. And I was getting that feedback from other screenwriters in the industry that it was really well written. And I was like, okay. I was like, okay, I'm a writer now, but I'm not, because I also don't like writing is also like there's so much discipline with it. And it's like, yes, I can call myself a writer and I can write, but there are people who are so much better at it and more capable because they are
doing it all the time.
Yeah, discipline. Whereas like for me, I see myself as a director first because I love directing and I just feel so good on a set.
Yes,
like
you're
running
in
the
flow
show.
state when I see you running shit, even a shoot. You are in command of all the moving parts.
Yeah, and it's fast and it's
so
easy to make those decisions and
Oh my God, you're so fast. When I shoot with you, it's the fastest.
Oh yeah.
I remember once, I think it was maybe the first time I had long hair. I still occasionally use this headshot, by the way. Cue headshot. I'll send it to you. I had like my whole afternoon blocked out because the first time I got headshots done when I moved to LA, it took like 6 hours. And so I had a whole afternoon blocked out.
Those old headshot photographers back in the day.
Oh my God.
Honey, I'm like, are we paying by the second? Like, what the?
Wow, truly all day
I don't know.
for like 4 looks. We did at least 4 looks in like an hour and a half.
Yeah, with like makeup changes.
So makeup changes, everything, which we're doing on the side of the street, by the way. But I remember like taking myself on a iPhone photo shoot after that because I had all afternoon to do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
So I just took pictures of myself looking fabulous for the rest of the day. Content,
She's dripping content.
Where was I going with that? You're a great director. So much fun. Oh, the hustle of it. So, and the hustle continues because you're doing the circuit now, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I think also too, it's like, I would like anybody who's like a performer who's considering transitioning into something else. The advice that I would give to anybody is just fucking do it. Try. Like, it's again that same thing. This my one of my best friends, Ali Pankey, who I've known since I was 12. She's a very successful director. She always says that to me. She's just like, there's this inevitable, like what stops people is this between where your skill set is at and where your taste level is. And you just have to do it. Even if you're filming stuff on your iPhone, like if it's something that you have interest in, nobody even needs to see it, but you're going to learn how to direct from those things. Or you're going to learn how to be a photographer from taking photos. Like you just have to try, and you don't necessarily have to put out all of your work. But if you're not ever like trying to write a script or to direct something or to make something, then you'll never get to do the thing that you really want to do because you're just so fearful that it won't be good enough. And it's like, you will be good enough eventually, hopefully. Most people are able to.
If you keep going, I mean, on a long enough timeline,
Yeah.
So start now. All the more reason to like do it today.
There's no better time than today, 100%. All of this stuff is like, it is like these corny things that you hear all the time on like those little inspirational quotes and stuff. But
which I have one right there. Start today, thank yourself tomorrow.
See?
Shout out. Thanks, George.
Come on, corny quote.
Because they're real. That's the reason why it's a platform.
Yeah.
Like it becomes a thing because there's truth in it.
There's so much truth in it.
Thank you for that reminder. I have some things that I've been avoiding doing.
Also, me too. It's like I can come onto a podcast and say all of this stuff, but like, but I've also have like full paralysis around creativity or choice paralysis sometimes, where I just like cannot self-start. You know.
Well, thankfully, we don't have to do much all ourselves. I think most of what we do is collaborative anyways. Like, you're not one to call me up and be like, hey, Dana, do you need your headshots done? I'm like, Taylor, I need new shots. And then I come over and then you're like, I have this curtain. And I'm like, where? I have this jacket. And then things roll and the momentum comes along with that. Yeah. So part of it is self-starting. Part of it is surrounding yourself with people who water your ideas and then not cutting them before anything's grown out of them. Yes. Like, stop the pruning already. Just let it grow and see what happens.
100%. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Okay. Are you ready for this? We have a rapid fire round called Wrist Roll with It.
Work. Okay.
Okay.
Let me wet my whistle.
Starts pretty easy. Speaking of wetting your whistle, coffee or tea, Taylor James?
Decaf.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
What's your favorite dance move?
Oh, it's probably... I'm not going to stand up and do it, but like the boom, boom, God. I do it all the time still.
Wait, did those hands go back or forward?
No, forward, tits to the knees and then up. Like it still comes
Are the
up.
legs in a wide second? Are
no,
we on an
it's
angle
weird.
fourth?
No, it's weirdly, it goes into a 45-degree angle, knees together.
Ooh.
Boom, boom. Yeah, I'm like...
I can see it as you're doing it. I can see it.
I grew up going to the Church of Bobby, so...
I can't. Devout Bobby Newberry. What is a move that you would delete? I am so excited to hear your answer to this question.
A move
and why do I feel like it's locking based?
No, it's not.
I watched you. I came into tears once watching you lock because you weren't bad, but you were making fun of it.
Yeah. Guys, it's so, hold on, we're going to jump to a story about Rich and Tone after, but if I was to delete any dance move, that's so hard because it's more like a full like dance style or something. That's
get rid of it.
Like, I feel like I really used to hate boardcore.
Yes.
Where like you're just doing the hardest shit. But you're not moving your face at all. And it's like, it could be so brilliant, but I'm like, Mama, I'm not engaged. Like, what are you giving? Yeah, I'm like,
I'm not engaged. I don't like it. It's a thing.
Yeah.
Ooh. Not only you know what? You know how sometimes you don't like something because you can't do it? I think that's it.
You wish you could do boardcore?
I can't not move my face while I dance. I've gotten this note before. Like, could you do less?
You go,
it's so hard for me.
I can't actually find a new dancer.
Sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point in my career, yeah.
I mean, that was just never for me, but it's also, I guess it's also not a world that I'm in.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not in concert dance or dance competition world.
A place where you need to look uninterested in what you're doing. Care? Okay, great.
What's the Rich and Tone story?
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, no, just it was probably for me like, well, it wasn't probably. It was the biggest job that I'd ever booked as a dancer, and it was a major shift for me in my perception of myself in the industry and in my dance career.
From being hot to being a person who's like really fucking good.
For thinking that I was only getting hired for jobs, and also hearing from other people like in the dance community that I was only working because of that. And then booking what I thought was a Madonna job, but what was Michael Jackson for the Escape promo and the hologram performance.
Oh, yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does that have to do with locking?
So it was this crazy because it was Rich and Tone and Jamie King, who
icons.
Yes. And for me, it just felt like that would never happen because it wasn't. I was dancing for like pop stars and like, you know, doing like hip hop, jazz, funk mix. It wasn't like fundamentalist hip hop.
Yes.
And I'm also gay and, you know, very, very comfortable with myself being gay. And so I wasn't in those like Chris Brown rehearsals.
Spaces. Yeah, that's not your world.
And purposely, like a lot of the spaces, I was like, I'm not
going to that audition.
Yeah,
I'm not going.
Like, I got asked once if I would want to go on tour with Chris Brown. I said, absolutely not. That is just not a fit for me. I'm like, what am I bringing to the table? I was like, you guys will hate it. But so we go through this audition process. We're doing like footwork. I don't know if but it's some sort of like juking or it was like all this like crazy shit I'd never heard of or seen. But I was so good at I could fake anything. I can't pop. I can't lock. I can't wave. I can't do any of that. I can fake any of those things just fine for a job. Am I going to go compete? No. But am I going to be able to believably pull it off on stage? Sure. So we go to the audition. The height cutoff at the time was 5'10", and I'm 6'1", 6'1" and a half. And I get a call back, and then we come back the next day, and they brought in a bunch of guys who were over 6 feet.
Oh.
No, over 6 feet.
Nice.
And I was like, oh my God. And I felt good about the audition. I could tell that they were sort of like vibing with me. And so when I ended up booking the job and then they revealed what it was, I was like, holy shit, like what is going on? Whatever. And so just like honored to be in that space. And then immediately, first rehearsal, one by one, what's your name? And
what's your style?
What fundamentals in hip hop are you trained in?
Oh,
and it's like, it's fucking
like your
I feel like literally like I wish I could remember everybody on the job.
That's such a nightmare.
I feel like it was like Punch, like
Goofy,
Heffa, Goofy. I think was probably like I don't know. Like it was like there was some fucking OGs.
Yeah.
And then it's like I train him popping, locking, waving, tutting, blah blah blah. Breaking all this up, and it's like line by line by line by line, and I go, my name is Taylor James. I am trained in commercial dance, and I can fake any style you want me to. What am I supposed to say here?
No, that's when you really have to come honest.
Oh, I was
in that room,
bricking it.
In any room, honestly, that is when you really.
Matt Aylward and I did that job together.
I love that.
And he saved my life. Because we also too, like, Matt is way more of a hip hop dancer than I am.
Well, he's been exposed and trained, like,
but he's trained.
Yeah.
So it's like in terms of like remembering counts and formations and details.
Yeah.
That's where we were excelling.
Yes.
Was like those details. Like I mean, obviously Heffa's like one of the best dancers on the planet. So just like you're leveling up, just trying to be beside somebody like that.
He's so wonderful.
Waving and popping beside Heffa. Actually,
I love that.
Yeah, it was iconic.
Oh, thank you for that story.
It was the first time ever in my dance career that I felt that I was actually a good dancer. Because Rich and Tone would never have booked me because they liked my look. In the initial job that we booked, which wasn't even supposed to be a hologram performance, it was supposed to be an interactive virtual reality thing.
Ah, yes.
But obviously, technology wasn't catching up with the idea. But they never, I'm pretty sure that we were also like fully covered in paint and shit. It didn't matter what I looked like.
Yeah.
So it was the first time that I felt really validated in
hired for skill.
And from, I would say, like the hardest working, hardest choreographers.
Yeah.
That like it's a no bullshit thing. And I worked with them for years after that. Like they would hire me for jobs and I always felt like such a random person included in that because everybody else. It was such a boys club. Like,
Yeah.
it was like all of like the bro-iest like hip hop dancers, and then me, and sometimes Wiley, which also iconic. Iconic. I remember we were doing that Usher performance for the Billboard Awards for Escape for the Michael album.
Yeah.
We were promoting the song. And it was Wiley and I were Miley, and Miley was there.
Miley and
She probably was, honestly. And Wiley and I'm pretty sure we were the only gay ones in the rehearsal. And what I love, for me, when I was in those spaces of like, when I would be working with like hip hop things,
yes,
I would tone it down. And I would, I would be like my bro-ier version of myself.
Yes.
Wiley doesn't do that. And it really was such a powerful thing for me to see that in this space, which is so intimidating with very intimidating choreographers, Wiley's like, girl, move that fucking thing, bitch. Like, doesn't
not doing any tone matching at all.
Doesn't care. And I was just like,
that's
that is
an
a good
option.
lesson. You don't,
That's an option.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. If you don't have to, you know what I mean? Like, you're not at risk for being yourself.
That's beautiful. This is the longest wrist roll with it I've ever done. It's wonderful. It's so worth it. I don't know if this will take us on a tangent. It might. What's the last song you belted out loud?
It probably, honestly, because I was watching Dream Academy and then we were rewatching it with friends last night.
Yes.
It was probably like Ariana Grande or Dua Lipa or something.
Gorgeous pop. We love it. First paid dance job. Go. What was it?
Well, my first paid dance job, I was living in Edmonton, Alberta, and these choreographers came in from Vancouver. You know all of them, I'm sure. And we're setting like this dance thing that was being performed at like a mall fashion show. It felt like it felt like we were auditioning for the fucking Oscars. Like, it felt like that big of a deal because nothing was coming through Edmonton. We also didn't have a hip hop dance scene really. So like these cool Vancouver choreographers came through and I ended up booking this job. Actually, I don't know if it was paid, so maybe this doesn't count, but it was like my first sort of like dance job.
Yeah, first gig.
And I remember we were dancing to Justin Timberlake. It was like Justin Timberlake and Snoop Dogg were probably like two of the songs. They're just such nostalgic songs for me. Still.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, if you got to have a superpower, what would it be if you could choose?
Fly.
Yeah.
But fly, but with being able to control like the atmosphere outside of my body. Because it's so cold up there. Like, anytime you look
under
at
these conditions.
Yeah, if you're like flying on an airplane, you're up there and you're like, oh, it's so gorgeous. But then you look at the temperature on the little monitor and it's like fucking Siberia. I'm like, well, I couldn't enjoy that.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to like control that. And that would also be great too, because if I'm flying in the way that I'm flying, I can also go underwater, right? Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
Definitely.
I've thought about it. It's not the first time I've been asked this question.
I should get more original. Okay, here's a more original version of that same question. What is your actual superpower? What are you like super, super good at?
Oh, I guess from like feedback alone, my superpower is I have a way of seeing things very clearly, how they could be more beautiful or better or improved on. Like, I think being able to understand what can or can't work. And look, there's like, there's a million ways to do different things. Yeah. It's just my opinion. But I do think like that is like a skill set that's specific to.
That is, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I've seen it in action. Okay. What are the words that move you? A poem, a quote, a guiding principle, or just the actual words that you feel really motivated by?
Well, Megan Lawson actually, this was probably 15 years ago, 10 years ago, like it's so more than 10. She used to say, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And it has stuck with me so much. And I say it to people all the time because there's nothing more true than like, if you don't ask,
you'll
never get it. If you're too afraid to ask. Yeah.
If you're too afraid to squeak.
Yeah. I think also right now too, what I've been saying to a lot of people is like opportunity and success and everything that you're sort of seeking and dreaming is on the other side of being cringe. Whoa. If you're so afraid of being cringe, you're blocking yourself from so many blessings.
Yeah, you will not get to have what's on the other side of it. I co-sign on that. Yeah, I believe that everyone is worthy of that success, all the stuff that's on the other side. And I also believe that everybody is worthy of failing. And so if you think of this as being like fair game to win and fair game, everybody who's winning can lose.
Yeah.
Everybody who's not even playing, you can also lose. Everybody can lose.
Well,
and everybody can
especially
win.
society today, honey.
Yeah.
It's like we love build somebody up to here and then tear them down. Like it's just, it's a part of that process.
It's sport for us.
But we're gonna lay back a little bit. We won't be like A-list celebrities getting dragged on TikTok.
No. We're not a part of it. Well, Taylor James, thank you so much for bringing your taste and the gap between where your taste is and where you are today, because you are nothing if not absolutely where you are today. Thank you for bringing it. I really love you. I love talking to you.
So
I love
much
learning from
too.
you. I love that you're my friend. And I love that you love my space. It is moving. The curtains are moving right now. It's
It's giving audience participation.
It is.
Yeah.
The crowd goes wild.
It's giving like that energy of just being like, oh, we're on a late night, honey.
Yeah.
No, it's just a bunch of Mylar strings. But
in my air conditioning
it's
right
giving
now.
that, yeah.
It's giving that.
No, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Thank you again.
Thank
We're
you.
leaving it there. We're leaving it there.
We're leaving it there.
Smash the likes, hit subscribe, leave a review or
Ship
rating.
it to your friends.
It. Ship it to your friends all over the world. And of course, keep it very funky. Bye. This podcast was produced by me with the help of many. Big love to our executive assistant and editor, Riley Higgins. Our communications manager is Ori Valladares. Our music is by Max Winnie. Logo and brand design by Bree Reitz. Thumbnails and marketing by Fiona Small. You can make your tax-deductible donations to Words That Move Me, thanks to our fiscal sponsor, the Dance Resource Center. And also, many thanks to you. I'm so glad you're here, and if you're digging the pod, please share it. Leave a review and rating. And if you want to coach with me and the many marvelous members of the Words That Move Me community, visit wordsthatmoveme.com. If you're simply curious to know more about me and the work I do outside of this podcast, visit thedanawilson.com.